Everybody, Parshas Yisro. We're going to discuss some ideas about Matan Torah through the lens of the Rebbe and Chabad Torah here today.
What is the Parsha stop calling Yitro and start calling him the Moshe's father-in-law?
I'm sorry. Are you giving a shir now?
No, I'm asking a question.
What about what?
Why in the first Aliyah it says Yitro's name?
Yeah.
7 times. Never again after that. It always calls him, Moshe's father-in-law.
And why?
Why? I want to call him Yitro.
That's a great question. I mean, he's got several names.
Right.
Yitro, Yeter, Chovav,
But not Moshe's
Utiel.
father-in-law.
And she said she's in
Interesting.
Also.
7 times Yitro, and never again in the whole Torah does it call him Yitro.
Really
Never again
talented.
in the Parsha.
In the Parsha.
Going crazy for what your wife
refers to.
I mean, I think it's quite a pella that the name of the Parsha of Matan Torah is named after a non-Jew.
That is pretty cool.
There are 3 Parshas that are
Wait a
named.
minute. But who named the Parsha? The Greeks.
Please, Abba, no, the Greeks did not name the Parsha.
Who named it?
The Chazal.
For sure, but where the Parsha
The
breaks
Parsha breaks are completely from Chazal. What you're talking about are when we have verse and chapter number. The chapter numbers are from Greek or from so chapter numbers are a Goyish invention. The chapter numbers.
But the Parsha names.
But the parsha where the parshas stop, you can see the parsha will begin in the beginning of a chapter, in the middle of a chapter. You know, it's not, the parshas are not linked to the chapters necessarily. They don't start exclusively at the beginnings of chapters.
I think it's one of the most important parshas because it's teaching us that the concerns of the people are the highest requirement that Moshe has to respond to, and that comes first.
You're talking about with Yisro's advice?
Yeah. The idea that don't make the people wait and stand in line, that's amazing teaching.
But it was more about don't wipe yourself out. Wasn't about.
But
that's how I read it. You know, it's like telling Moshe, you're gonna be wasted.
it was about the people having to stand in line for hours.
He said both. You're undermining the people and you're killing
Okay, well,
yourself.
that's a different sikha that we could discuss, which I haven't fully understood yet, and I didn't review it this year, but the Rebbe has a whole sikha on why if this was such a good idea, well, why didn't Moshe have the idea? Why didn't Moshe come up with the idea?
No, I'd love to
Okay,
hear
great.
that.
Okay, it's all kinds of great questions. Look, we're coming out with great questions here. Yisro, why does Yisro come up with the idea? And on the other hand, so what was Moshe thinking that it was a good idea not to do it that way? Like, why did Moshe think it was a good idea? What, Moshe wasn't smart enough to understand what Yisro was saying? He thought what he was doing was a good idea. So there was like a havamina and maskana. There was a what we thought and what was the conclusion and why there was the havamina that Moshe was right. I mean, on one hand, you say, it's great for the children. It's great for the people of Israel that they didn't have to wait in line, for their questions. On the other hand, they didn't get to speak to Moshe Rabbeinu.
But they wouldn't stand in line. If they had to stand in line for a long time, they'd stop going.
Perhaps, or the fact that they get to speak to Moshe Rabbeinu directly.
After 5 hours, 10 hours, how many times are you going to stand in line to do that?
I go back once a week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, they could have things on the line, they could have they could have entertainment on the line.
Which I had gone many times. I don't know if you were there, but when we go to Lubavitcher, you could stand there for hours and no one blinked to get to see
How
that
many
guy.
times did you do that?
About 6.
Three. Yeah, you did 6. Yeah, wow. At least
For dollars.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times.
And the wait time was multiple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I went with Mordechai David, so I had to walk right up.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. No. One time I went with Simon Jacobson. So he also.
We cut in line?
We just walked right up. I mean.
Did Simon cut in line? Did Simon be able to cut in line?
He just. It wasn't a line. It was the crowd in 770, and then they would come around. It was kosher brachas. And I
He
don't
was
know how
giving
he
out
did it.
wine. He was
just
giving
said,
out
"Come-"
little. The Rebbe
He
was
just
giving
said,
out
"Come
wine.
with me," and we just followed him and walked right up there.
So you
But
didn't
it-
stand in line.
I did several other times when Simon wasn't around, and I just went there on my own.
What's $10?
How many? 10 hours? No, maybe.
No.
two.
Okay, listen. There's
Whatever it
an
was, it was like it
advantage.
was
You
a
can't deny the advantage, and you can't say, "Well, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're special and all, but it's not worth my time. I've got other things to do in the midbar that I'm too busy to. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
this is
the
true.
opportunity to get it straight, from the proverbial horse's mouth. I mean, it's saying, no, I want a younger, a 20-year-old computer programmer to tell me what the halacha is. No, I want Moshe Rabbeinu to tell me what the halacha is.
I don't want that.
You do.
You don't want Moshe Rabbeinu to tell you the halacha?
You sure do.
Wait a minute. I want to meet him and say, hi, Moshe, thank you so much for giving us everything, the whole thing. I want to spend time understanding it, talking about it, like you're doing.
You don't think he'd give you the time
How can you do that?
you don't think he'd give you the time to
No, of course. How could he? That wouldn't be fair to everybody else. You get 2 seconds.
You're fair. Everyone gets their time with
That's
so
the
Yisro.
problem.
So there was
That's the problem.
what Yisro. The Rebbe says what Yisro was, if I remember correctly, what Yisro was worried about was Moshe would turn into a cult figure. He would turn into a cult figure, and Yisro, knowing this, knowing the dangers of cults and religious, figures and the power, he was worried that Moshe Rabbeinu would become like a cult figure, and that he'd be the only one people could talk to, and it would be too centralized. And so it was kind of like a way to decentralize. So it wasn't just for people to have easier wait times. It was also so that it could be kind of a decentralization, and let's not make some kind of like central like cult figure here as if there's a monopoly on who's got the answers over here. So
But the better question is, why? You're right. Why didn't Moshe come up with a solution?
because Moshe could not see that. He would never think that he's going to become a cult figure.
Well,
He's
not
not
that
in that
answer,
headspace.
I mean, why?
Well, according to that, that was something that Yisro had an ability to see from the outside, which Moshe Rabbeinu would not be able to see. Not because he's not because he's small-minded, but because it's just not, that was not in his purview to worry about. He was doing what he felt he must do and what was good for the people to do. Yisro was seeing it from another angle, that because of his experience as being a cult figure and a religious leader and a chieftain and an Avodah Zarah priest and all this, that he could see what issues may arise, and wanted to protect both Moshe and the people from those things. So it wasn't just a convenience issue, as far as there could be other reasons also, obviously, but that was one particular reason that I remember the Rebbe discussing.
That's so relevant for today. Our concern must be for the Am. And the best way.
Yes, but Abba, part of you can't deny, like, okay, you guys from this point on, you guys aren't going to see Moshe. You're going to see Yankel. Yankel's going to give you the answer. Well, I've been waiting. I want to see Moshe. I don't want to talk to Yankel.
No, you can give us a shear. He'll give us. Wait, we'll get a shear from him every day. We'll listen to him. He'll have a kumsitz. We'll come and talk
Kumsitz.
with him.
Moshe Rabbeinu, the Kumsitz leader. Yeah.
Also, all of a sudden, you're Mr. Kumsitz. Just see it now. I could just see
Okay,
it.
so let's
I
go
could just see
let's
it
go
now
to the
going
let's go
right,
the
like,
let's go to the
the.
listen. This week's parsha, we have the 10 Commandments. Hashem spoke to us. Hashem opened up the heavens to us and gave us the Torah, something that has never happened. That Hashem has never. No people in the history of the world have purported to have witnessed en masse a nationwide revelation from God. Right? This sets us, the Jewish people, apart from any other religious tradition in the whole world. This is one of the main theses of the Kuzari, Rabbi Yehuda who wrote the Kuzari? Medieval Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay, it comes with age,
yeah,
don't worry
yeah.
about it.
And that's his main point is that no other nation it has this tradition because it's not possible to fabricate. You can't fabricate a whole national revelation story. You can't fabricate such a story and implant it into a nation and convince the nation that this happened to you or that this happened to your grandparents.
Gaza did.
What?
They created a completely false narrative, and they teach it to their children and have been for decades.
Yeah.
And they believe that this is their homeland, and they developed the whole thing. And
So we'll see how long that goes for. We'll see how long that tradition lasts for.
It's written by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi.
Rabbi Yehuda Halevi.
12th century.
Rabbi Yehuda Halevi,
In the 12th century.
12th century. Okay.
Yeah, it lasts as long until you kill him.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great comedian. There's a great Israeli comedian I encourage everybody to listen to. His name is Yochai Sponder. Yochai Sponder. You've never seen such a comedian.
English?
He speaks in English. He's Israeli, but he gives.
why don't you power him up and we'll go.
Yeah, we'll just put him on. He is so funny. His comedy is filled with how the Jews are the chosen people.
What's his name?
Yochai, Yochai, Sponder, Spondr. He's such an amazing. He's so funny, and it's all about how the Jews are the chosen people, and how everybody's just trying to kill us to prove that God is not like either you kill us, and then that proves that we're not chosen by God. But here we are. He is so funny. I don't know. Yochai Sponder, Spondr. That's right. He's mamish. It gives me a lot of nachas to listen to. He's very, very funny. Anyway, so after this year, you can tune in.
I'm gonna do it right
It's a lot of Jewish pride, a Jewish pride humor that I've never seen such Jewish pride like humor about like the history of the Jewish people. So we know that the first two commandments we got directly from Hashem. And I am the Lord your God, and you will have no other gods after me. And I was learning in the Tanya this past week, in the chapter 22 or 23, that the Tanya makes a very big point about the fact that all of the mitzvahs are actually contained in these two mitzvahs. We know that, right? We've heard that all of the positive commandments are all encapsulated in I am the Lord your God, and all of the negative commandments are the lo sases are all encapsulated in the do not have any other gods before me. And the Baal-Tanyan's idea that he's expressing is that when we say, what does that mean? What does that mean that all of the positive commandments are in the mitzvah of I am the Lord your God, and all the negative ones? What does that mean? Because when you distill it all down, what we're trying to do and what's really encapsulated in the message of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that God is one. What does that mean when we say God is one? We're not saying there's no other creator, that there's no other besides him, that he's unique. We are saying there is nothing else but God. There is nothing else but God. Our entire experience of life, we should remind ourselves, and we have to remind ourselves multiple times a day, that though our experience belies this truth, and it seems like there is other than God, but there is really nothing else than God. God is one. He is one. He didn't change when he created the world. It's still just God, and there is only God. And so when all of the positive commandments that we do, whether it's tefillin, whether it's tzitzis, whether it's kashrus, whether it's trumas and maasros, it doesn't matter what it is. It's connecting to the reality that there is nothing else but God. I am the Lord your God, and that's we're doing. It expresses it like this, it expresses it like that, but we are relating to the world from this truth that I am the Lord your God. That is the truth of the world, that there is nothing else, and that I'm interacting with the world from a truth of I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. I'm putting on tzitzis.
I didn't have enough, but we can get you more. Shalom.
I don't know. I can't forgive this. This is ridiculous.
Let's go. It's okay. Let's go.
Thank you.
Well, what about this? And I took you out of Egypt.
Okay, but I'm right. We have this personal relationship. But how is all of the positive commandments all summed up in I am the Lord your God? Because whenever I do any mitzvah, I'm acknowledging the fact that really the world is God. And when I would do an aveira, if I would do an aveira, any aveira, I'm basically saying that there's some other reality other than Hashem going on. If I'm willing to do an aveira, it's because there is something in me that is kind of giving credence to this existence, that there's something other than Hashem in the world.
I think I'm
What? Exactly. You think you're God, or your reality is stronger to you. Your reality, your pleasure is more real to you than God is real. And so that is, don't have any other gods before me. It's a denial, exactly. So that's why any lo taseh, any negative commandment is having gods before me. It doesn't have to be avodah zarah per se. It doesn't have to be idol worship per se. But any acknowledgement that there is something other than Hashem in the world, and my pleasure and my experience is stronger than the reality of God, then that's don't having other gods before me.
But the third one sort of clarifies this, and he doesn't want the second doesn't want you to worship any idols.
Don't have any other gods before me.
Right, don't have any other gods. So it's like specifically, defined. It's not just anything you do is about me or against me.
But if we're saying that God is one,
there's specific things that I don't want you to do.
Yes, but it's okay. Yes, there's specific things that Hashem doesn't want us to do, but they're all pulled up by this one stream, which is that you doing any of these things that I don't want you to do, your willingness to do those things means that you are you are acknowledging a reality before me.
Except maybe it says you can do it as an individual, but you have to do tshuva.
You can't do it. You should not do it. But if you do it, you have
gods, that's a sword. But you can do it. I didn't say you can't do it, but in there you have to do tshuva.
I don't get what you mean.
It says you can't have any other gods. It doesn't eliminate you're the one who makes the mistake. You're not making a mistake. You make a mistake.
We make mistakes,
You're
Abba.
people.
That's fine. We make mistakes.
But the way out of that is doing tshuva.
Of course. But that doesn't mean when he says don't do something, he's giving us permission to do it. When he says don't do it, he's not giving us permission to do it. Freedom is the ability to do it. We have the ability to break laws. We have the ability to break laws. I'm free to decide to break laws. I'm free to, as free as I am. I mean, when I decide to break laws, I would imagine that that's not coming from my free will. Actually, it's actually coming from a compulsion. Right? I'm actually more compelled.
Is it gaiva?
Well, it's definitely it's chet. Chet, sin, means missing the mark. So it's whether it's gaiva, whether it's taiva, whether whatever it is, there's some compulsion that it's for my pleasure. My pleasure, whether it's that I have something or that I have a certain experience or whatever it is, it's that my pleasure, even though I know that the God doesn't like this, God doesn't want this to happen, but my pleasure is more real to me than this existence of God, than the unity of God, than what God's. And therefore I'm that's why it doesn't really matter what Aveira I do, what specific Aveira I engage in, I am breaking don't have any other gods before me, because that is basically saying don't think that the world is anything else but me. So don't think that there's anything else in this world. Don't think that yourself and your pleasure and your experience somehow are an independent reality that needs that should be given. Like, no, there's nothing else. There is only the Rebbeinu Shalom. I am the Lord your God. All the mitzvahs essay, doesn't matter what specific mitzvahs.
Why does it say, like, I think it's Sanhedrin, not obviously you're
saying in the Gemara it says
your gematria. Why does it say there that Hashem said, I made the Yetzer Hara too strong? It says it somewhere, I'm sure of it.
It was just for you. That was just
No,
for you.
it's not just for me.
I made the Yetzer Hara
Why
too
does he
strong. I
say
don't know.
that?
I don't know that Gemara.
Why does he
That
isolate-
matters, doesn't it matter if he had that thought? If it's actually, I could ask Rabbi Citron where it shows up. Should I? Anyway,
well, I mean, listen, we have a Yetzer Hara. We have a challenge. But the point I was just making before this was that when we sin, we really more compelled from our natural state. This Yetzer Hara that we really have two warring identities.
After
Not
dinner,
just-
Hashem gives an overall order, or no, overall statement, and then he breaks and he gives you examples of what he doesn't want. Statues made in image.
Right, but we were only heard the first two. We heard the first two from God Himself.
So have no other gods. That's more important. So that's what he doesn't want. He doesn't say you can't do things.
What do you mean we can't do things? I mean,
You can't
what
do
we're
into
what we're
your
trying to
own
explain, what we're
ego.
just discussing
You can't go into your own ego.
is why does Chazal say, why does our tradition say that all of the positive commandments are all encapsulated in the first command, and why are in the second?
You said right.
So that's the point I'm trying to make. Whether we can or cannot, we have. I'm not saying we're just because we heard the first two commandments now. That's it. We're immune to sinning.
But leaving the Chumash aside for 2 seconds, I mean, it says it throughout the Tanya, how one is meant to behave. Throughout the Tanya.
What's the problem here that you're
I don't have
addressing?
a problem.
You're in a different
To me, it's,
He's talking about it's all Hashem, and you're trying to
Oh,
make
you're
excuses.
saying it. No, I'm not. I mean, you're saying it's all Hashem, and you're saying, well, it doesn't say anywhere where you can't do stuff, and I'm saying, wait, it says in the Tanya all over the place that you can't do stuff.
Of course you can't. Well, I'm sorry. There's something. Okay.
We're in 3 discussions.
I guess so. Let's
We're in
try to. That's
He
good.
just
That's 3.
said
Let's.
to you
We got the
1
Trinity
second
going
ago,
on.
he
Let's
said-
bring it back to
He
the.
just said to you a second ago, it doesn't say anywhere where you can't do stuff. He just said it.
You can't do don't have any other gods before me.
Ask
What
him,
that's
what are you
doing
looking at
something.
me?
Isn't that
Ask
doing
him.
something?
I'm asking a question. God says, I'm God. We understand it's all Him. Now He says, don't have any other gods. Now He doesn't say, don't you do it. So don't have any other gods. So a God is the idea that something else can create. Aim from,
See, this is where there's something create. So that's a limited thing. Oh, it's just a creating thing. No, who said that? That don't have any other gods before me is don't think there is any other power. Don't think there is anything in the world that exists aside from me. I am the only thing that exists. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hashem is one, meaning to say there is nothing else. My whole existence, our whole lives are being lived within the petri dish of the Ribbono Shel Olam. There is no other force that is involved in this experiment called, or simulation, or whatever you want to call it, this creation, this world that we live in. There's no other electric current. It's all the Ribbono Shel Olam. There is nothing else that exists. It's like a rock. We talked about it like a rock that you chisel in the rock, someone's name. And now you look at the rock and you see, what is that? Is that a rock or is that a name? You say, it's the name. That's Rocky. Rocky, it's what the letters say. What do you mean? There's nothing added onto the rock. It's not like something added onto the rock and now you see a name. It was actually something cut away from the rock. And now I can't even see the rock anymore. Even though it's all rock. It's all rock. But I can't see the rock itself because I'm so distracted by the name. I see the name. I say that's Rocky. That's not a rock. That's Rocky. And so I can't see the rock. I'm focused on. And so when I give too much importance to the Rocky, that's me. I'm Rocky. Okay. So when I think Rocky has a reality and is trumps what God's reality is, I'm in trouble. I am not acknowledging my real existence, which is the rock. And there's an illusion, which is a purposeful illusion, to see Rocky and to have this hard time. It's like, is the horse moving backwards? Is the horse moving front? Is the thing going this way? It's like our brain. It's like, it's hard to get our brain to stop seeing it the way it sees it. But it's ultimately a rock. And because of this chiseled, not because of something added on top, there's more something. It's beyond the rock. There's something else aside from some putty put on the rock. No, there's nothing else but the rock.
I think you get full agreement from us.
Great. Okay, good.
Can you describe that again, please? I didn't quite get the point.
Okay, okay.
He's kidding.
Well,
Wait, he's kidding.
You kidding?
kidding.
Are you kidding? Okay.
Yeah.
You were very clear.
No, I know you're kidding, but it makes then I think that I'm this is so simple. It's so simple. Why am I spending so much time talking about it? It's so simple. But when I say that it's all Hashem, it's like well, it sounds silly, or it sounds too like, what do you even say? Meaning we're stuck in this. We're stuck between something being so simple and something being completely like that we do not pay attention to at all. Ever. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place over here, because it's so simple. Like if I spend any time on it, it's like, come on, we understand, but yet I've never noticed it in my life. And so it's what can we do? What can we do? So that we're being introduced here. The Torah is given to us, and it's introduced with 3 words: Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. And Anochi Hashem Elokecha, we've discussed this before. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. This is Hashem's Shalom Aleichem. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So we should expect that in the Anochi Hashem Elokecha, there should be a very, very deep idea of the nature of reality and how to connect to Hashem in these 3 words. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. It's the Shalom Aleichem. So we talked about
how to connect to Hashem.
Well, how to
the statement of what Hashem is.
Well, let's see.
Not necessarily to connect.
So the whole part of the whole project of Matan Torah and the Jewish people, and is that we are living in right now an illusion that there is something other than Hashem. There's something other than Hashem. There's some other power. There's some other force. There's some other mover. There's something else that has power in the world, that we ourselves, I feel pretty important and pretty special. My needs and my experience is certainly very important to me. And sometimes the importance of my experience and my feelings trumps what God told me he wants and likes. Because my reality is so real to me. Rocky is so real to me that I completely ignore the fact that it's rock, and that rock is the basis of my existence and the entirety of my existence. No, forget you, rock. I'm Rocky. I mean, it's insanity. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a Rocky thing. I'm no rock. I'm Rocky. It's a total insanity. So while it's so simple, it's a complete. It does not conform to our experience on a moment-to-moment basis.
What does it?
That we feel that Einod Milvado, that there's nothing really other than Hashem. That even my personal experience, my personal feelings, that even though I get a feeling that I have things that are not in coordination with the Torah, Hashem's will, but that they become so strong that I'm actually willing to go for them, because it's so real to me.
That's the nature of man.
I understand. That's our struggle. That's our struggle.
And so
the struggle is, what is stronger to you? Is your reality stronger to you? Or is the reality of the actual reality stronger? So that's where we have the Torah. We're given the Torah, and this world is extremely confusing. It's extremely confusing because it feels very real. It feels very real. It looks very real. And so when my eyes see, I can't,
But it is real.
It's, what is it? It's really all Hashem.
Simsum, but in this
it's really all Hashem. It's not real. Even metaphysics will tell you, not metaphysics, quantum mechanics will tell you that this is not real. that our eyes are deceiving us, that electromagnetism and crazy quantum forces are providing basically a wonderland illusion of solidity, of matter that doesn't even really exist. This desk, you think this desk really exists? It basically doesn't exist. This desk is basically thin air. Thin air, this desk. All of us are thin air. If we took the entire mass of the entire universe and stuck it all together, so mass was touching mass on the atomic level, it would be the size of a bowling ball. Everything is not here.
So since you're such a big Annie Hall fan,
Yeah.
What if I was to say to you, you know what, Yerachmiel, this is all terrific and everything, but I have an appointment back on planet Earth. No, I mean, I said it because I know you're a fan. But what about, how do you deal with that guy?
Are you getting up now and leaving?
No, Khalila. How do you deal with that guy who's just like,
I have a plan. I have an appointment plan. Okay, listen. We should know where we're.
he's got a, he's got.
Okay, listen. There's. How about on planet Earth? Like in reality, it's so funny, and that's what I'm saying.
No, that's the nature of man. And God understood that. So he said, look, here's the key. I am one. And after that, it's all information about how to prepare yourself to try to stay in that world. And the biggest one is don't make any other gods in front of me. And then you shouldn't do this.
Don't live outside of the reality. Don't live outside of the reality. Reality is hard. Reality is hard. I'll see you back on planet Earth. I have that because reality is really, really hard. Because what did it mean that at the Matan Torah we saw what was seen and we heard what we heard what was.
This is synesthesia,
right? What was that teaching us? What was that synesthesia? What was the point of that? Right? Hashem doesn't make miracles for no reason. The Rebbe points out that was part of the Matan Torah experience. It wasn't an additional miracle. It was part of the experience that those things get switched. Because what we see is you cannot. If somebody sees something, you cannot talk them out of what they saw. It's very difficult to talk somebody out of the facts that they saw. Okay, if we were living 100 years ago and somebody said this is mostly space, they would have committed you. They would have committed you to an asylum. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got an appointment on planet Earth. Who are you? Einstein. I never heard of you. So, but yet that is the reality. Okay, and so now I lost what I was talking about.
Others in space.
Oh yeah.
Where it takes me back.
So okay. So look, that's the reality.
Yeah.
And the challenge is always try to live to the reality.
Right. The reality is that there really is. There really. So we think we're so because also we live in such a cultural. The civilization is in a place now where our physical needs, our who we are, our identities, our comfort, our experiences are like so chashuv because we need 15 choices for
lunch,
like the side dish of lunch.
Yeah, that's okay as long as it's not trade.
Well, but it's very problematic because you think I have 15 choices for a side. I am taka chashiv. Do I want sweet potato fries? Do I want regular fries? Do I want the Caesar salad? Long Island, Thousand Island, ranch, vinaigrette. I'm so chashiv. I'm starting to think that I'm so chashiv.
Okay, so what?
Because when I start thinking that my needs and my experience in this world is so important, what's Hashem? What's the Hashem got to do with it? I have become... What?
I totally disagree with what you just said.
What?
Because all of those options are gifts from Hashem. And you can
They
celebrate
are.
Hashem for
Absolutely.
every one of those dishes that you
I'm
take.
with you.
I'm not thinking I'm God because I've got 15 choices of salads.
No, you're already thinking you're God, even before the 15 choices. But I'm just saying the 15 choices just reinforces it. Okay, so we say Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So I want to bring this to another idea that we've spoken about,
I hope so.
and maybe we've spoken about it too much. I don't know. You let me know if I should stop talking about this God thing. But Anochi Hashem Elokecha, right? Let's start with Elokecha. Elokecha is the only name of God, Elokim, that becomes possessive, right? Like Kel or Elokecha, Elokim, Elokeinu, Elokecha, right? Your God, my God. It's like our understanding. It's the God force in nature, right? It's nature. It's God. It's God as
nature.
Okay, it's God as in the physical world, our physical world. Okay, what we see, right? It's the God that is that's our conception, our appreciation. It can be Elokai, my God, your God. Okay, then there's Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So the Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's a conglomerate of Haya, Hoive, V'yiyah, past, present, future, right? It's the godliness that's beyond time. It's like the spiritual God, right? Elokim is kind of like the physical, and Yud Kei Vav Kei is like the spiritual element of God that's beyond space and time, that's beyond that. Okay? Now we talked about a different time that God is we don't have any idea what God is. We have no idea what God is. Okay, let's talk about God, like the Godhead, like the actual creator of the world. We have absolutely no thought that can grasp it whatsoever. There's a mashal, there's a mashal that we always need to know when we talk about mashalim and parables, that it's just to talk and to hear. It's not to actually think that it's what's going on, but that God is like a lamp, like a bulb. That a bulb has two functions, on and off. On and off. It can turn on, and therefore it has light, and the light is emitting from the bulb, and it's all light, and not light, right? That's another koyach of the light, to not shine, and it's just the bulb without shining, no shining. So God we think of as this infinite light. No, that's what He does. That's what He does. God does light. He does light. He does tzimtzum. He does darkness. He does those things. And a problem is that we need to appreciate how He does both of those and is still one. Right? We have a very good handle on Elokim. Right? This God in nature. Right? We can experience nature. We're part of this nature. We're part of that. Okay? And so we think it's everything has is defined, and there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. It's not one. There's not oneness. There's that cucumber. There's those peppers. Look, all this variety, all this diversity. How can you even imagine oneness? It's all all this diversity, all this disunity. That's Elokim. That's the godliness that exists in variety in nature. And we experience that, and it's very difficult. We experience this as it's very difficult to experience it as unity. But it's the godliness that's in the physical world. Tzimtzum. Then there's the Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the spirituality. The light, the Or Ein Sof. Okay, that we feel and. We have to work on and connect to, and whatever it is, the midos, and feeling, and becoming better people, and I don't know what, but it's the godliness that's like on Shabbos, I guess, or something, or whatever, I don't know. and so, but that's also not God. It's also not God. Yud Kei Vav Kei is not God. God doesn't have a name. God doesn't have a name. You can't name God. God's beyond name. So we name the expression of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei. We name the expression in the physical world, Elokim. But these are expressions. This is activity. This is what Hashem does. It's not what He is. It's what He does. So our job is to realize that these two elements of what He does aren't really contradictory. That the Elokim, the physical world, and the Ruchnius, that's not, while it seems like they're disparate or even contradictory in war, against each other, they're actually completely one. And after we go through this world of the confusion and of trial and of Yetzer Hara, once that period is over and we finish that, then we will live in this harmony in our physical bodies, in a totally ruchnius state, but in our physical bodies. One of the biggest mistakes we can make as Yidden is saying, "Oh, God is ruchnius." God's ruchnius. That is such a gayish thing to say. God is spirituality. That is so gayish, because God is physicality too. He's not, because God is neither. God is not infinite and he's not finite. He's not ruchnius and he's not gashmius. Ruchnius and gashmius are things that God does, and he does them both just as well. God doesn't do ruchnius better than gashmius. He does great gashmius. You with me? He does great gashmius. All the gashmius we love, that's God. He did that. And the ruchnius also. So let's stop thinking, let's get out of kindergarten and stop thinking that God is spiritual. God is just spiritual. He's beyond. He's not infinite.
I think we passed that exam.
Did we?
I think we did.
Okay, well, we made it.
And the Rebbe always used to
I'm
say,
trying to pass that exam.
But the Rebbe always used to say, a bracha v'hatzlacha v'gashmius v'ruchnius.
Yeah, but we interpret that as that, okay, so Hashem his bracha should get into the gashmius and enliven the gashmius. But the gashmius I don't think of listen, you're on the level that gashmius is gashmius and ruchnius is ruchnius. And the two shall never, gashmius is something I need to, and ruchnius is something is so, that's so holy, and gashmius is so, like, it's all, do I think that ruchnius is godly as God is ruchni?
I don't think you do.
Okay, well, I tend to do that.
One of his unlimited number of capacities and capabilities is ruchnius.
Yeah, it's another one of his. It's another one. It's like light. There's light. There's light. That's just two things. There's light. That's the ruchnius, and there's tzimtzum. That's the dark. The tzimtzum, the constriction. He can do both, and actually, there's no unlike a light can't be on and off at the same time. A light cannot be on and off at the same time. As soon as the light is on, it's not off. As soon as it's off, it's not on. You can't have it both ways.
Well,
that's the limit. That's where the limit goes. But the light's on. That's where the limit of the parable goes. Okay, because a light bulb can't be on and off at the same time. But Hashem, he can do both. He can do both. And what we're through this both, we're coming to realize that it's all one. Even though it looks like two opposite things, because in our experience, a light can't be on and off at the same time. So it looks like it's either on or it's either off. This rot.
So what did God mean when he said, make sure he doesn't eat from the Eitz Hadat?
Hold on, before we go back all the way there. But Anochi is, we said, Anochi Hashem Elokechem. So Hashem is the Ruchnius, Elokechem is the Gashmius, but Anochi, I. That is Hashem's saying me, I. That's beyond name. I am Hashem Elokecha. What I do is this Hashem Elokecha. That's how you're going to connect to Anochi. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Anochi is this element of Hashem that is beyond what he does, is who he is. And we say, what language is Anochi? You know what language Anochi is? Egyptian. Anochi is an Egyptian word. It's an Egyptian word. Why would it's like coming out of the death camps and Hashem giving us the Torah and saying Ich bin Hashem Elokeichem. Like what? Like what are you talking? Like it's weird. It's weird. And he starts out with Egyptian, Anochi. That this is
because he falls up, said, I brought you out of Mitzrayim.
So say the whole thing in Egyptian.
Well, that's Egyptian.
Well, what do you mean? Say the whole thing in Egyptian. Why start talking in Hebrew? Just speak in Egyptian. Why is he speaking in? Why does he decide to?
Because I don't want you to be in that place anymore.
So don't speak Egyptian, b'chlal. And you're gonna save the word, the first most special word, saying me, Hashem, beyond name, beyond who we're really coming to connect to, is an Egyptian.
But that's the point, was that to show that, that it's, that he's embedded. He was embedded in that place that was very physical, and something
that we have to know.
Abba, will you grab the Kleenex, please?
That we have to know that this Anochi, that Hashem, even though, right, he's Ruchnius, he does Gashmius, but that the essence of Hashem, which is what we're connecting to, can get to the very, very, very lowest, the very lowest place. There is no place that we cannot connect to the Eibishter, the Creator, the lamp, the light himself, the light bulb himself, right? Not a light bulb, but the beyond, before creation, before activity, before Ruchnius, before Gashmius, beyond infinity. These are things that are already, once you're talking about creation. Anochi, Hashem is, who are we meeting here? We're meeting not while we are acknowledging the achdus of everything and that everything is one, we're also acknowledging that when I connect to Hashem, I'm not connecting to the physical or the ruchnius. I'm trying to connect to Hashem himself, the Anochi, which is Egyptian, which in my mind, what that kind of signals to me is that you have no idea what I'm talking about. You have no idea who I am. Just get that. You have no idea. I'm introducing the 10 commandments. Can you imagine a religion? Can you imagine Yiddishkeit? Yiddishkeit makes no sense. And the more that we can appreciate how not making sense Yiddishkeit does, the better. Because we're everything having to make sense. Everything has to make sense. Everything has to be logical. And there's so much logic and so much proof and so much gavaldic, intellectual, like amazing. Everything works and everything matches and everything's gavaldic. He started out saying, I am an Egyptian. That's just, that doesn't make any sense. Because he's saying, you have no idea who I am.
He's telling a story.
But you can connect to me.
You came from Egypt. And I took you out of Egypt. And I created everything for you.
Abba, then say the whole thing in Egyptian. If we're so comfortable in Egyptian all of a sudden, so let's talk in Egyptian.
Transition. You're out of Egypt. I'm just starting. You came from Egypt. Now we're out.
We are in the most elevated, exalted experience in the entire universe. Matan Torah, where there is no greater apprehension of godliness, of whatever.
We didn't want to listen to it.
Well, we died. It was so powerful.
Yeah, but we didn't want to listen to it.
It was too intense.
We didn't want to listen.
But you hardly want to listen to me. I mean, what are you?
Did I come here?
I know, but everyone's saying it to calm down.
Well, I know, but you sung the song 100 times. No,
I have a problem when you say God is not infinite.
Good. God is not infinite.
I have a problem when you say that.
Okay, what's your problem?
I think he is infinite. What
That's
do I know?
exactly why Hashem is saying Anochi in Egyptian. That's why Hashem is saying Anochi in Egyptian. Because you think I'm infinite. You have no idea. And the truth is, in Achanami, we have no idea. Eles machshava tfisa beklal. Our mind cannot grasp Hashem. Listen, what I'm just trying to give over from these last parshas and is that our relationship to Yiddishkeit has been way too practical. It's just way too practical. It's way too rational. And we've got to get a little cuckoo. Because when we do things because they're so rational, because they make so much sense, then we're not doing them for Hashem at all. We're doing them because they make so much sense, because they're so rational, because they fit into my little box, because God's infinite, and so I'll do things for infinite. That sounds nice to me. It makes sense to me. So at the end of the day, it comes back to my feelings, that I experience it right, that it makes sense to me, and I'll do what it makes sense.
Okay, so when I go home in the afternoon, after dinner, I sit down and I watch Rocky 2 on my computer.
All right.
Am I saying to God that I believe that there's other gods before you? Am I denying the reality of this infinite being that's not infinite?
There are worse movies. There are worse
You
movies.
took us to that rock thing you were talking about.
I know. Listen, everyone needs a break. Everyone needs to relax. I mean, meaning like you exercise, right? I mean, that's for your health. I mean, if taking an hour and a half and just being mindless and is relaxing, and that's important for your mental health, who am I to say not? Okay.
My father-in-law said that he knows as much about God as an ant sitting in the seat of a 747 knows how to fly 747.
It's close. It's close. But that did not inspire him to learn about what God, like he thought that was his, listen, that was a way for him to say, I am putter from having to, like there's, like you think you can learn about, this is what's so amazing about Matan Torah.
Why do you say that about him though? Why would you say that?
Well, it didn't.
That he's punted from mitzvahs because it's too big.
Yeah. What are you learning about tefillin, and what are you learning about mitzvahs?
His whole life was fundamentally about mitzvahs.
I
Being
understand.
kind, taking care of people.
Right, because as an ant, it made sense to him. As an ant on the seat, that's what made sense to him. But that God can come and tell that the ant is going to understand when the pilot comes and says, please note that you have to keep Shabbos and you have to keep kashrus. I'm an ant. I can't hear anything like that. I'm not receptive to anything like that. And that's just ridiculous that I think that anybody can understand as an ant what the pilot is saying. And he was a pretty bright guy.
We're all idol worshippers. Because we all create our own image of what we think God is and say that's God. And that's idol, creation of idol.
Okay. Listen, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Okay. But I'm not saying everybody's an idol worshiper. I'm not saying an idol worshiper. But some people can use the thing of Hashem is just too big for me. Hashem is too big and too unknowable that all of a sudden it's like, what's the use? What's the use? Let me just do what makes sense to me. Because whatever the pilot knows, I'm just here an ant and I'll just do what makes sense to me, which is be nice and be honest and treat my wife and family, which is amazing stuff. But it has nothing to do with connecting to God, and it denies that I have an ability to connect to God. And that's what's so amazing is that even though Hashem says Anochi in Egyptian, you have no idea what Hashem is, but yet he wants to connect to us on the deepest level. He says Anochi because you think I'm Anochi. I'm talking to you in the most grubbish language, Egyptian. I'm speaking to you like on the street, like yo, dog. Like that's how Hashem, yo. Don't think that I'm so elevated and I'm so this that you can't connect to me. I'm right here with you in the lowest place, even though I'm so beyond. No thought can get me. No thought can understand me. That's a great ant on the pilot, great. But my heart. But first of all, nobody knows what it's like to be an ant. Nobody knows what it's like to have a heart of an ant. And it could be that every ant is mamish blissing out on the Rabbeinu Shalom in this heart nonstop. And that's why they're so busy doing all this work, because they feel Hashem's love pulsing through their little insect veins. How do I know? I've never been an ant. Nobody can tell me what it's like to be an ant. But that's what it's like. The feeling is I am with you. And that's where we are. That's where we, like I say all the time, that's what we need to get out of our heads and into our hearts.
What are we supposed to do with all of that?
That's the question. Thank you very much.
What are we supposed to do with all of that?
So we got to get ourselves back to the garden.
We got to get ourselves back to the garden. This whole life is a garden. This whole world is so good, and we're so busy thinking that we have to take care. We have to take care of our. We have to take care of our little petty needs and our petty desires.
Those are the
and
things will get us back to the garden.
what will get us. What we think.
Not the petty needs and desires, but what we're doing, kindness, caring.
But why am I doing kindness and caring? Why am I doing kindness?
Because
Your mother told you to.
You don't like that answer.
I don't believe it.
And it was written by a good.
I don't believe it. It's very convenient that also God said it, but it makes sense to me.
Because you were trained like that. Otherwise, you'd be like some guy in Borneo and you'd eat somebody.
Okay, so it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me to take care of the elderly and the poor, and it makes sense to me. That speaks to my Jewish neshama. Like it makes sense to me. So when I do that, or when people who have no connection to Yiddishkeit give to the poor and help the downtrodden, they're doing it because it makes sense to them. I'm not saying it's bad. They're doing something bad. They're not doing an aveira, but when they're doing it, they're not connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom. They're connecting to themselves. They're connecting to themselves.
So which one is connecting to Hashem?
What? Because I do this because
which activity do you do?
any activity that's not an Aveira, as long as I'm doing it because I'm acknowledging that that Hashem is everything. That I'm doing it not because it makes sense to me. My primary reason because Hashem wants this. If I'm eating lunch, right? Hashem wants me to feed myself. He wants me to eat lunch. He gave me this whole
Why should you
thing.
give money in shul in the morning?
Because that's what Hashem wants you to do.
That's right. So you're doing it because Hashem wants you to do it.
Am I doing it because Hashem wants me to do it, or am I doing it because that's what they tell me I'm going to get my tefillahs answered if I do? That's what the guy's going to be upset with me if I don't give him money. He's going to hack my chenik if I don't give it. What?
Is that why we give money to get our tefillahs in?
No, we give money because it's a mitzvah. It's a money to get us in the habit of giving. It's in the money to change our midos. It's the money to get to because Hashem said so. But if it's just because I feel guilty, or because the people is going to look at me, or because I need to be a good Jew, so it's just about being honest with looking at ourselves. Because if it's about it makes sense to me. If it's about this works for me, this makes sense to me, then it just means that everything I'm doing is not within it. God is so beyond that. And so if I'm always in the doing things because it makes sense, because it fits into my life, then I am not doing what a Jew's supposed to do, which is to go out of ourselves. If I'm a guy, is the difference between a Yid and a guy is that a guy is we're talking about the best people in the world, but they're doing it from a place of makes sense. This makes sense to me. I know how to treat others because this really makes sense. It's how I would want to be treated, and I'm gonna do for others because I know it makes sense. A Yid, it's not because it makes sense. It's because even if it doesn't make sense, Hashem's tests for Avram Avinu. Hashem's test to Avram Avinu. It started with Lech Lecha. Go for yourself. Do it for you. For your bracha, for your parnasa, for your family. Do it for you. What's the height of the test? That if he didn't pass the test of the Akedah, Hashem said all of your other tests would have been like nothing if you didn't pass this test. The test is, are you serving me because it's good for you? Are you serving me because it makes sense to you? Is that why you like me? Is that why you're doing things that I like? Because it makes sense to you, because you're a big Hachnas Sorechim guy. That makes sense. You like that. You like it. Well, if that's why you're doing it, then it's all nothing to me. Even though I started out with Lech Lecha, go for you. It's for you. Of course, it's for you. But why are you doing it? Are you doing it for your experience, for your well-being, for your geschmack, for your elevation, or are you doing it because this is like there is something beyond what? And as soon as it stops being for you and for your and for you, then I don't want to do it. It doesn't make sense to me anymore.
Makes sense. Both of those are just a matter of making sense. Whether you do it for yourself or you do it because Hashem wants you to do it, or you're doing it for Hashem. It's both. I mean, it's just my sense. You just are talking about sense right now.
But so then, what was the big struggle with Avram Avinu to kill his son? If it just makes sense.
Well, I mean, it doesn't mean there's.
It doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It made no sense. And no universe did it make sense for him to kill his son.
Struggle.
And he was only doing it because Hashem told him to do it. Because he knows that Hashem knows. He knows that Hashem knows that even though he can't grasp, even though he can't get it, he doesn't understand.
That's why you didn't argue. You didn't say anything. You just
of course, because he passed the test. Because he wasn't doing all of these things because they made sense to him, because they made him feel good, because it worked for his legacy and it worked for his upbringing. It did it because Hashem said so, and he can trust Hashem knows best. Even though it makes no sense to me, because it makes no sense, because Hashem said so, I'm going to do it. And so that is where are we doing it because it makes sense to us? Or are we doing it because we're being
Peer pressure.
and peer pressure? Peer pressure is also because it makes sense.
There's a share that Rabbi YY gives. It's Basalagam.
Basalagani, yeah.
8 or 9 or 10 things of it.
That's the previous Rebbe's mimer.
Right. So what he was talking about is that Moshe Rabbeinu, his neshama comes from Atzilus.
Okay.
We come from
Yitzira.
a much lower
Ria, I don't know. Sia.
So that's the limitation of our understanding. We're living in that world, not like Moshe Rabbeinu or Avraham were living in, or maybe Yitzchak was, and we're living in another space. So
we have an even greater opportunity. We have an even greater opportunity to serve Hashem, and let's just surrender. It's all I'm suggesting is let us take these ideas and try to just explore, just observe ourselves and observe our motivations, observe what we're doing. Because we think, it's fine. I'll do everything because it makes sense and do everything because it's, that's a good frum person does this, but then when I do Aveiras, why am I doing Aveiras? Because even my mitzvahs are in a stream of really doing it for myself. So when it comes to Aveiras, so it doesn't make sense for me not to do this. It doesn't make sense for me to not do this.
Knowingly do an Aveira.
What?
Say I'm doing it. I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it.
So why would somebody do that? Because
you're it's your pleasure.
Because when the mitzvah and the aveira are both about satisfying my needs, then that proves, the fact that I do aveiras proves that I'm not really doing mitzvahs to the degree because I'm doing it for myself. Because if what's important to myself, then when it comes to something that's usser, well, that's important for me. Oh God, you don't like it this time? Oh, but I'm doing things for myself, even when I'm doing tefillin and what?
I know I'm making a mistake.
But how could I? But deep down, I think what I'm doing is right because
why do you say that?
Because I need it, because it's real to me.
No, you don't need it.
It's real to me. It's real to me, or I'm just lazy, or it's real to me. I need this. Why would I do it? I know it's wrong. I'm doing it anyway.
I get a moment of excitement, just like a hit of some drug or something.
So you need it. Your pleasure, your needs are very real.
I don't need it.
And when I wake up in the morning and I want to daven shacharis, I'm also, because my need is very real.
Right.
My need is very real to be.
So the important skafia.
Okay.
During that moment, or whatever that is.
Iskafia is suppression.
It's not really, though. Iskafia is really, it's not like stamping something out, but elevating something.
No, that's hishafchia. Hishafchia is transforming it. But iskafia is from Lashon kofet, to force.
All right.
You hold it in abeyance.
Same thing. Anyway.
No, it's not the same.
It's the same idea. It's a similar idea.
Okay.
They're like two sides of the coin, but it's at that moment, like what you said last week or the week before, which is like, delay the moment. How did you say it? Delay the immediate gratification.
I said this?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like something I'd say.
It's absolutely something. You have to check your videos.
About the davening?
No.
Last week we talked about davening.
About the delay of something that you might be doing or you might think about doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's that moment of clarity. That's that moment of
moving beyond your desires to a place where your chokhmah is looking at it, which is a higher level of performance.
And you beat it, and you beat the moment.
That is Mesiras Nefesh. That is Mesiras Nefesh. If I'm very hungry and there is a piece of chicken here that is not kosher, okay, or kosher to what I would want to eat, and I'm just hungry. So what's real to me? I'm really hungry. So I know I shouldn't eat it. I know Hashem doesn't want me to eat this, but my hunger is now much more real to me. My hunger is much more real to me.
If you're dying, you can eat it.
If you're dying, you can eat it, absolutely. But if you're not dying and you're just really hungry,
you don't eat it.
Well, or you do eat it. It depends. It depends how real the feeling is by us.
Or how
It
good
depends.
the training is,
What?
how well you were trained. Your
Definitely,
kids
there's a
are trained.
training.
Your kids are trained not to eat that.
So that may not be an issue for them. That may not be an issue for them, but it's just an example. It's just an example when our needs become more real than what Hashem is. And basically, Matan Torah is that there's really no, like, when we think we're other than Hashem, whenever I think I'm an end to myself, I'm an end to myself. So when I do mitzvahs, they're an end to make me feel a certain way. I'm already on the wrong page. If I'm an end to myself, I'm already on the wrong page. I'm a means to an end, and everything in the world I'm a means to an end. My wife is an end. You guys are ends. I'm not looking to do anything for you to get something for me. If I need to do something for you, I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you because it's what Hashem wants me to do. You are the end. I am just a means. And so if I do my Torah and mitzvahs as if I'm an end, then I'm going to do Averas. I'm going to do Averas, of course, because I'm the end. And so when it comes to a contradiction between my end and Hashem's end, I'm an end, and it's going to be very real to me. But if I am just a means, and what I need in my life is if I take that down a notch and say I'm just part of Hashem's plan as a means to His end, then that it's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different mindset that when we do mitzvahs and when we come to do when we get tested with Averas, what is the real for me? So this is
Israel.
It's real. Okay.
I drive